All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The Artist's Way. We are finally just about ready to wrap this just meaty lesson plan up. And with us, as always, is Damian.
Hello.
Oh, and look how cute the cat is.
She's been in every one of these. Like she's part of Artist Way.
Absolutely. Oh, I had a commercial there for a second. That was weird.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
You don't hear nothing? I hear it. There's always got to be something going on.
Like you heard it in your head? Like
No. Like actually, like there's a commercial. Anyways, but anyway, buddy. Oh, and we got Jenna here.
hey,
Fantastic. Oh, let's
friend.
just dive right in, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems crazy to say this, but this is the last week. I just absolutely flown by for me. I don't know about you guys as everyone's jumping on. I don't know if it either seemed really, really long or really fast, but for
Right.
me, this went really quick.
It did. Well, it was funny too because like when we're like drudged on through like a lot of the activities and things like that, a lot of the homework, especially the morning pages, things felt like really, really slow. But then during like the great like fireworks crash, boom, bang, like it felt really fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the book really is written in like the hero's journey, as I've said before, to where you start off all, oh, we're gonna, reconnect with our creativity, and then a few weeks you're like, oh my god, and then at the end it's like pop, 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 it really is.
It's bizarre. It's great. Yeah, it's totally like a time bender for sure.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. So, to me, I said last week, specifically week 11, chapter 11, is definitely my favorite one out of the whole book. I mean, it just hits home. And today, what we're going to do is we've got week 12, and then, there's just one or two things that she says at the end of the book that I wanted to point out. But jumping in, I mean, just jumping right in. There's a couple of things I want to just straight up read from her because by now you know how well she is at saying stuff that just she can throw those darts, man. I mean,
And it's so interesting because I've been a full time like professional artist for since I was like in my teens.
yeah,
And I know that's weird to say, but I've never heard like, and I've said it before. I'm going to say it a million more times, but I've never heard someone like nail something I felt so
yeah,
deeply, but I didn't have words for it.
yeah. Also, it helps you understand just how much we're all in this in the same place. You know what I'm saying? Like all creatives, regardless of where you're at with your actual skill sets, the doubt and the inner theater of being creative is the same for everyone. You know, um,
I love
you
that there's camaraderie
there
between us
is,
all.
and that's what she says here at the end that I want to talk about. She talks about
Oh, yeah.
creating your creative circle, which you've got. I mean, the creative circle was already here. I know the cattail is just constantly hitting me in the face. You know what? I got to tell you guys, we're all close enough after being through this journey together. Last week when we got off the call, I was sitting there and it dawned on me. I wonder how many times my cat's butt has just been directly in the shot. It'd be a great drinking game. It's like an artist way drinking game. Every time the cat butt pops up, you take a shot.
I can pour myself a cocktail real quick.
So, this week it's recovering a sense of faith. And she goes right in. She starts with trusting. I'm literally reading the very first part of this chapter. Adventures don't begin until you go into the forest. That first step into an act of faith. Faith. Creativity requires faith. Faith requires that we relinquish control, and that is frightening. That's why we resist it. The
Mm.
I think it's such a beautiful thing, and she's going to dig into it right here. One of the things that this book has done so much for me has helped me kind of pull up from the depths of my fear why I am doing things that I'm doing. You know, um, the concerns, the worry, the fear, the second guessing, the doubt. She she gets rid of the mystery of it, and you can just plainly look at it. Like she just
Yeah.
de-dresses it, undresses it. It's like there it is. It's just fear, and and I've said it, I think, pretty much every week. It is a lot less scary to never do something and just tell people I never got around to it than it is to do something and be successful.
Oh, it takes so much bravery to be creative too.
It does.
You like that's such an attestament to what you just said. God, it's so easy just to sit back and judge other people's work, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Well, I don't know how many actual critics you've ever known, like film critics or art critics. Like, I know people who went to college, got their degree in cinematic criticism, da 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 da, and that's their full time job.
Yeah,
And
not many.
yeah, like the Roger Ebert kind of guys from back in the day, and they'd sit
Wait,
here.
wait, didn't they have the monsters in
Yeah. Oh, are you talking about?
Willow?
Yes. Nice,
Yeah.
dude. Where did you pull that from? That's hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, props to history. Mike, he's excellent. He's on TikTok.
There you go.
Because I remember those giving me nightmares as a kid.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, it was like the two chattering like
I
movie
know what you're
critics.
talking about. It was a little disturbing and dark, right? So
Yeah.
I have found most critics, first of all, to not be professional critics. You know, they didn't commit their life to the criticism of literature or the criticism of art. They're critics because they have never done anything else.
Ooh.
And one of the things that's not in this book that I've said before, and I know it resonated with you, and I want to really make sure that this is the only Damianism I'm begging people to listen to, and that is, if you are not doing my specific art, I am not listening to anything you have to say about it. So not many have been creators. That's an absolute fact. Like,
Wow.
you'll get someone who's painting, and then some person who's, that's fine. They're a carpet cleaner, comes over to your house, and they're like, oh, that's weird. And that will literally keep you from ever painting again. That
Devastating.
that person's not even a painter,
Yeah.
much less trying to do the specific kind of paint. So I really locked into this years ago, and it does come from that famous Theodore Roosevelt quote about, the critic and the person in the arena. But to hone that down, I live by these words. If you are not a filmmaker, I am not interested in what you have to say about my films at all.
That's
And
great.
and I've stood in at the end of a film festival and have said that to people. People are raising their hands, and they got that real critical spirit. Well, why did you choose this? And I'm like, I'll answer all that, but first of all, have you made a film? And
Right.
the whole audience gets dead quiet. No, I do. Da, 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 da. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna explain to you what I was going for, but I'm not gonna defend it to you.
Let me ask you this, Damian. What's the difference between a criticism and an opinion? Where does that line get drawn?
I honestly think it's the heart. And you ask that question to a young kid, and they could tell you instantly. One is mean, one is kind.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, an opinion would be like this shirt. Of course, I wore it for the last, someone could be like, that shirt's kind of weird. What is it? But they're just genuinely curious.
Yeah.
Someone could be like, that shirt's really weird. What is it? And you're like, damn, dude, like, what do you want me to do? Change shirts? So that I've always thought it was interesting that critics literally means critical. And critical analysis is good in science and it's good in academia, and outside of it, I find it really not helpful. I have found people asking from a place of curiosity to help me to no end. Like, early days when I let people read a script, I send it to people, one, that aren't really filmmakers, which sounds like the opposite of what I was just saying,
Right.
but they're just endlessly curious people. So they'll ask, like, so why did you make your lead character a Native American Indian? And they're curious. They want to know. That's not
Yeah.
criticism. That's curiosity, right? What was that comment that just popped up? I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, yeah, you're good. Kendall. Yeah, criticism is 100% or 1,000% comes from an angry heart.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. So, what you're looking for is opinions that come from curiosity. Like, why did you choose this? Why are you
Yeah.
using that particular acid, whatever, with that? And you're like, well, do you not like it? No, I'm just wondering why. Like,
Right.
that's healthy because you probably should be able to answer why. And if the answer is, I just felt like it, cool, you're an artist,
Yeah.
you know? But,
And it's interesting too because even though like I feel like we all have our momentary criticisms as well.
oh,
Like I try to be very positive, but then there's sometimes moments where I'm just like I'll catch myself being critical of somebody else's. I'm just honestly anything,
yeah,
parking job, whatever,
yeah.
you know. And I try to limit that as best I can. It's not a good place to come from, you know.
Yeah. Well, it is. And, something we've talked about before is if you are obsessively thinking negative thoughts about yourself, the fact that you have that ability means the polar opposite is true too. You can obsessively think loving thoughts because you've already proven that you can just program it. So,
Mm,
what I try to do is always slide that scale. I try to go, I'm being really critical. I'm being a perfectionist. I don't want people to hate this. And I try to start scooting it over to being more, I'm doing this just out of curiosity and excitement. You know,
right.
what was that last comment?
That last comment was really good. Let's see. Let me bring that up. Um, the author also talks in the book about healthy criticism being an aha moment for artists.
Yeah.
Sometimes but I feel like it's criticism that totally come from that state of curiosity, like Damien said.
Yeah.
They were just like, why didn't you do this? And even though that hurts, that I didn't nail it, they are, if it's a healthy criticism or just opinion,
Yeah.
it usually, yeah, you could, there's a definitely kind of a difference and you
Yeah.
can kind of feel it. Like you mentioned, it
Yeah.
could say the exact same words, but just the way they're phrased could
It's
either
the
like,
energy. It's the energy coming at you, and hey,
yeah,
Benjamin. And also, you know, we need to be careful when we are in the position of a critic because we hurt our artists when we are crushing other artists. And
mm,
that's something that's not in the book that I learned as a producer. What I like, I said this just yesterday with someone that I'm helping produce a feature. Instead of being like, hey, why didn't you do this? What I use, like, I think there's an opportunity here. Have you thought about maybe blah, blah, blah?
yeah,
And people, a lot of times, they'll be like, "Oh, I didn't think of that, but yeah, I don't want to do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." You know, so it's in the delivery. You are dealing with someone's most intimate little child, sweetest part of their heart. Don't be
yeah,
a prick. Just don't be a prick. You know, like I'm surprised at how complicated some of these things are for people. You know, um,
totally. I mean, yeah, like would you tear down like a kid doing finger
oh
painting, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it it's it's a little bit of an overstatement, but you have to say it. The people that are critics are people who have left the playground and now they're all about the money of that art most of the time.
Mm,
Most of the time. And I don't ever want to leave the playground. I didn't become an artist to be famous. I didn't become an artist to be wealthy. If any of that happens, that's cool. That adds to my abilities and my reach. But the goal here is to play. And the minute you start feeling like you are not in a playing area and someone's playing with you,
yeah.
get out. Just get out, you know.
I
And that's
like
a
the playground analogy
yeah,
because you're active, you're building.
that's
Meanwhile,
right.
people are just kind of sitting in the sidelines watching you like,
That's right. So you go to a playground and you watch kids play. Total strangers will start chasing each other. Total strangers will start chasing each other. But like what you just did, you've got the adults standing over there all serious or looking at their phone, is what I normally see, ignoring, letting the kids get it out of their system. Right.
right.
And
Like it's something
all
to get rid of.
that's right. It's something to expel and run out of them like you're exercising a demon. Right.
Right.
It's like the truth is, we as artists need to be as close to the place of playing in everything we do. Alan Watts said it best, and I'm a big Alan Watts fan.
Alan Watts, man.
Dude, Alan Watts said the trick is to do everything as if it's play. Never work a day in your life. Approach everything as if it's play.
I
And
love that.
uh, dude, that's as close to truth as you're gonna get. You know. Um, Let me read this real quick on the same point. She says, we throw up roadblocks on our own path. Why do we do this? In order to maintain an illusion of control. Depression, like anger and anxiety, is resistance and it creates dis-ease. If you're not a big word person like I am, I love the structure of words and stuff like that. Dis-ease, the lack of ease, the lack of comfort, it's dis-ease. And that's always really resonated with me. This manifests itself in sluggishness, confusion, and I don't know. So let me go into that again because out of this book, this is the biggest one that hit me a couple of years ago, man. Just so true. We get inspired, we get that moment, that inspiration that we all love, and then in order to pursue that inspiration, we have to lose control for a period of time.
Which is super scary.
It's
Like
scary as hell.
how do I go to the DMV on time? How do I pay my bills? Like
Right,
that's
right,
a real world hard thing to do.
right. And since you can't see, we don't have these beautiful blueprints like you have on the wall behind you of what we're doing. You just start, you know, you can't see the whole path. That's part of what is so scary. And I feel like God, universe, whatever you believe, structured this on purpose. You
Mm,
cannot see around that mountain pass. And you never will unless you start walking that mountain pass.
I love that.
And that's scary. That's so scary. So, what do we do? What I've done a lot in my life is I instantly start looking for roadblocks to justify me not pursuing that thing. Right. And
True.
we could spend the whole night talking about what those roadblocks are. We all have different ones.
Of
Mine
course.
Mine typically falls somewhere around that's not responsible and you haven't finished this project and this project.
Bingo.
Buckle down, be a grown up,
Yep.
be a big boy and get this done, you know. Um, and what I love about this, because you know how much I work in the mental health space, I've spent a lot of my life battling depression. I've been diagnosed with clinical depression and these things, but I can tell you what she is saying right here. I will get so inspired, and then I will subconsciously come up with this list of reasons why I can't do this thing I'm inspired by. And
Yeah.
then I enter into a dark depression full of self hate and loathing, you know,
Yeah.
and can't figure out why. Like, oh man, what's wrong with me? Well, what's wrong with me a lot of the times is I haven't taken the courage to stay on that path. And now you know it, and you know that you know it. She says that right here. I love this. She says, each of us has an inner dream that we can unfold if we just have the courage to admit what it is and the faith to trust our own admission.
Yeah.
I know the things I know. And that became a mantra for me. This is one of the things we talked early on in this, like when I'm being flooded with negative thoughts, I'll just start running, I am love, I am love, I am love in my mind, just to rework the script in my brain.
Yeah.
This narrative right here, I know the things I know. There has to be an ownership where you say, I know it. I don't know how I'm going to get there. That's why you shouldn't talk to everybody about your ideas because you don't have enough information, you know? But I know what I know. I trust my inner person, that inner voice, and I'm going to get on this path and pursue this. And that started flooding me with courage. That
Mm.
started really giving me the strength to go, you know what? I know this. And I have been waiting for this chapter to say this point because it's so obvious. And this is one of those points that every time I say it in a live group in person, you just watch people's brains just like just explode. You have an idea to do something. The very fact that you have the idea means that it is yours because it originated in you. I've never thought once about being a blacksmith. I watched Forge and Fire the first 3 seasons when it first came out. Never once did it cross my mind, you know what, I'm going to start forging stuff.
Right.
It's not in me. But story and film and characters and narrative, that's in me. And I have these stories all the time. So, one of the tricks that we all pull on ourselves is I've got a million ideas. I got to pick the right idea.
Right.
We stack our cards, impossible. This house of cards that we can never execute on. We make it so difficult. And I had a therapist say this to me. Literally, it was one of those moments where they lean forward looking at me like, please get this. You would never have dreamed this dream unless it was meant for you.
Mm, I
It,
like that.
it wouldn't be in your consciousness if it
Yeah.
wasn't yours. And your dreams aren't my dreams. As close as you and I are, and as many things as we have in common, we have very different dreams.
That's cool. And also, I feel like that instills a level of faith that you're on the right path.
Yes. That's the point. That's the
That's
point. Is
great.
why do you have this idea anyway? It it's kind of like when I had a therapist tell me, "You're listening to thoughts in your head." Yes, yes. Well, who's the one listening? Like, oh, I'm listening. Okay, well then whose voice is that? Because you can't be both.
Right.
So it helped me understand that there's an observer on the inside that's listening to this narrative, right? It's the same thing with your creativity. If you've never taken any action on any creative unction, inspiration in your life, you can still hold on to this. That the next one that comes around is for you because it was born in your spirit and in your mind, and nobody else has thought of it. Therefore, it's yours.
I love that.
Isn't that
That's
cool?
terrific.
Yeah.
Well, that also celebrates our individuality, like in
Yeah.
just everyone's path. I love that. That's a great statement.
So here's how she puts it. She says, we are not accustomed to thinking that God's will for us and our own inner dreams are the same thing. We're not.
Mm,
We're raised to believe whatever level of authoritarian, whatever level of religion, whatever, right? Get that right flavor and formula. But the last thing you think is that all these ideas are in you because that's the path that God wants you to take to be fulfilled. You know, it's hard to think that a creator or energy or whatever you want to call it puts ideas in us so that it will draw us down the proper path because we're so busy thinking that we're just being selfish when I'm over here painting and not getting work done,
right.
right?
Right.
That's incredibly toxic view. The most natural, and it would seem obvious, is if the great creator is allowing this thing to be birthed in you, then it's for you, right?
One. Oh.
Yeah,
Whoa.
that
Excuse
was a
me.
good one.
Allergies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but and yeah, just like have that sense of ownership. This is yours and yours alone.
Yep.
Over whatever you feel, whatever art form that you're attempting to master or just to climb. It's
Right.
just I
Yeah.
love that. That's
And
wonderful.
people, one of the most common pieces of advice you get on creativity, but also in the startup space, which I've worked in around a lot of startup companies and that kind of thing. You always hear people say, "Don't tell anyone your dreams." Just don't tell anyone your dreams. You're opening yourself up to criticism. And I always agreed with that, but I didn't really understand it until I understood this principle. It's yours. And if you
Right.
start giving it away too early, you're literally giving it away before it's ready. You know, uh, this chapter is chock full of examples, and I love them. She talks about baking bread, has to be in a dark, hot space. And if you keep checking it, it's not going to rise.
Right.
You keep checking the cake. Keep opening that oven. The middle of that cake is going to collapse, right? The diamond under pressure, the flower growing up through the mud, like all of these analogies in our life, they all start in darkness.
Yeah. I remember in my early days, I couldn't wait to express what I was feeling on the inside, right? Like pretty much what we're talking about. I was in the dark, right? I was proving. The dough was proving.
Yeah, yeah,
And there was such an overwhelming sense of loneliness,
mm,
terrifying loneliness, because no one's able to see or understand what I'm working on, what I'm trying to
right.
build. And God, that was just such a miserable time in life. But man,
Yeah,
once you get through it and you start to build and people start to gather around, like, "Ooh, what's going on over
yeah,
here?" There's just in you need those time. I feel like you really need that time to steep, to
yes,
really kind of gather your skills, connect that with your creativity, your natural born creativity, with your
yeah.
learned skills, and then be found. Um,
She has a
I'm so
whole
happy with how
section
it
on that.
looks. What was that?
She has a whole section in this chapter on exactly that, you know, protecting the mystery. And she said,
Ooh,
a
protecting the
child
mystery.
a child is started once the egg is fertilized in total darkness. Like all of our everything in life is darkness to light. But what we
Right.
want to do is we want to start and stay in the light. And we're rushing it. I mean, every analogy, the bread, coffee, anything, tea, everything has this process that we all want to and get to tasting the tea, you know?
Right.
And if you focus on the process, it induces anxiety. As I've said a million times, if Frodo knew how far he had to go, even with Gandalf's warning, if he knew, he never would have went.
No.
I mean, that literally is the basic principle of that book is being called to adventure and what you go through and how changed you are. So that loneliness, I love that you talked about that. That loneliness because you had so much inside of you. But isn't it interesting that now as you've matured as an artist, you probably hold on to that darkness longer. You don't
Yes.
run around just telling everybody every idea that pops in your head
I
anymore.
have a lot less to prove nowadays, like they've seen enough. Now they
Yeah,
get it.
that's right. That's right.
Now I can kind of start releasing things,
Right.
right?
So those early days, it's because you so much wanted to prove to people what you were capable of, right?
True.
But you had
Very
to hold
true.
it all in. So you were being tortured. You're being torn apart instead of being pressed together, right? Now that she says this quote that I love it so much. I'm not sure where it is, but we'll get to it. She talks about the darkness and mystery is the first rule of magic. And if you if you're a showman, show person, whatever you want to call it, if you're in marketing, if you're anything, all of these great creators that we love, they don't just go, "Hey, I'm working on a picture. Here's my picture. I use these paints. I use these brushes." Oh no, man. They show you a little bit of a slice of the paint, right? And then a few weeks later, they show you there's mystique, there's mystery in bringing this out of us.
Yeah.
And we get to conduct that. We get to control that symphony of pulling this thing out of us and how we do it. And
Mm.
frankly, most of us are just kind of, hate to use the term, but my dad used to say pissing in the punch bowl. Like we have an idea and we tell everyone. And then we look around and like, what do you guys think? And everyone's like, this is your fourth, like 43rd idea this afternoon. Like, we don't care, you
Right.
know? So calming down, taking ownership that you have the right to create and that this thing is yours because we know where it came from, you. And then this Joseph Campbell quote, which I'm a big Joseph Campbell fiend. Follow your bliss and doors will open where there were no doors before. It's
Oh,
it's the inner commitment to be true to ourselves and follow our dreams that triggers the support of the universe. It,
Love that.
it's magic. It literally is magic. The universe is set up that if you will take the first few steps, the ground will rise up to meet you. It's Indiana Jones. It's that bridge that he couldn't see. You
Yeah.
know, it's that first step of faith.
I
And
can't help it. It's the Indiana Jones with the foot and then poof.
yes, where he does the whole, "Ugh," and I
Yeah.
remember watching that as a kid, and I
Exactly.
was like, ah, you know.
Oh,
And
terrible.
I mean, it's such a wonderful thing, and I always thought it was cool because he does test the bridge. He throws some rocks and gravel, right? So it's not just blind, crazy ass wee. He jumped out. He he had enough to take the faith to take the first step, you know. So when I'm getting ideas and inspiration, I look to make sure that it's something that really vibes with what I want to do. You know, I can be a dark guy, so I can come up with a lot of dark concepts and dark projects, and I don't want to write those in scripts anymore. So I'll find another way to express them in like painting or something like that. So I'm careful with what I pick to foster and give birth to. You know what I'm saying?
That's interesting. Now that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Curating what creativity that you allow to grow.
Right. Yep.
Weeding the garden.
Yeah. It is
Interesting.
like, I don't think you want to, anything that comes up is honorable. It's not good. It's not bad. It is.
Yeah, it
But I
is.
don't want to put more darkness into the world. So I need to find ways to express that stuff. That's a morning pages exercise or a strip
Mm,
or a really dark, heavy blacks, reds, and blues kind of painting at 2 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? While
right,
listening to
right.
Tool. Like getting this crap out of my system. Um, let me read a few more things here. She says, once we trigger an internal yes by affirming our truest goals and desires, the universe mirrors that yes and expands it. By trusting, we learn to trust.
Hmm.
It,
There are a
everybody
lot of
on that,
synchronicities when you
yes,
start putting things out there.
absolutely. And we've all experienced them. No one can say that they've never experienced that.
Well,
It's,
as long as you're paying attention.
yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, I'm actually a very oblivious person.
Hmm.
I'm the guy that almost walks out in the middle of the street and then boom, bus
Ah,
goes
you're
by.
that
Like,
guy.
oh, that was close.
Right.
It takes a lot to catch my attention, but there's been some eerie things where you start either talking to the right people, hanging, putting your energy in really, really
Yeah.
good places. All of a sudden, things start happening, and it's
Yes.
wild.
And what's cool is if you are kind of an oblivious person, the universe will get louder. It
Hence
will
the
get louder.
bus.
Kind of like the girl flirting with you, but you're not picking it up. Sooner or later, she's just gonna tell you. You know,
Yeah,
yeah. You,
which honestly she should have done to begin with.
yeah. Let's be honest. She should have just came straight to you with it, right? Um, so moving into the mystery part here, creativity, like human life itself, begins in darkness, and we need to acknowledge this. The insights may come to us as flashes. It's true that some of these flashes may be blinding. She's talking about inspiration. It is, however, also true that such bright ideas are preceded by a gestation period that is interior, murky, and completely necessary.
Ooh, God, like these are things that I feel so deeply to my soul
Yeah,
that I've never heard put to words.
I know it. It's
It's so
beautiful.
bizarre because I have at least at any given time probably about a dozen just ideas mulling over it. And I like to almost think of it as like this kind of nebulous. Oh, actually, a nebula is perfect. Like just fog.
Yeah,
Floating out in space. There's colors, there's shapes, but and then every now and then they'll coalesce. It's almost like watching like what this way back in the day, like dial up when you're watching an image
yeah.
render.
Oh, yeah. It'd take
So
forever. Yeah,
it's yeah, and you're just digesting. You're just slowly building.
yeah. The What she's really hoping people get from this last chapter, and think of the significance that she put this at the last chapter. Like everything we've talked about in this book, and this is what she's wanting to end with. These are parting words from her and for your journey. And her point is, don't try to get out of the gestation period, the darkness. Don't try to speed it up. There is a natural, and I can tell you, man, I have tried fighting it, and I have brought things, I've basically had premature births of
Oh,
project that
mm.
it's devastating. It's devastating. What does that say? Yeah.
I I've been loving the input from the comments. Guy, live chat is on fire right now with just
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we're going on this journey together. It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, but this ties into your what you just said, buddy. The creative process is a process of surrender and not control.
That's right.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Like 9 women can't make a baby in a month. Like you can't speed this stuff up. It
No.
takes time.
Yes. And
Oh,
honoring that. Now I'm scrolling through here. There's a couple of comments I want to pause and address if that's all right.
do your
Um,
thing.
John was talking about when I was talking about choosing how I handle the darker stuff, and they
Yes.
were talking about that kind of macabre, dark stuff comes out. I I can tell you, there's nothing wrong with you. That is very normal for an artist that's even allowing their consciousness to look at this space. It's your subconscious trying to express so much that it's seen, you know? So I really beg people to give a expression to it. It just may not be the thing that you want to express on a public platform, you
It's
know?
true.
And maybe it is. Maybe someone needs to see it. I've seen some horrible dark art that helped me heal.
Yeah.
You know, there's this one guy that did a book, beautiful ink drawings of monsters that reflected different mental diseases,
Love
and
that.
it was so evil in some places and so perfect that I would send this to people. A lot of people struggle with sympathy and empathy, and I'd be like, look at this. This is
Yeah.
what I feel like, you know? So there's a need for it. You have to measure what you're doing with it, you know? Um, okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just reading, man.
I
Everyone's
am too.
blowing it up. It's great. It's very hard to measure, to not measure the progress of your art. Measure your skill sets, not your output. Measure
Ooh.
your skills. The output by nature has to be shit sometime.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, let's not mix words. Like, in order to grow, the optimal, and I love this neuroscience stuff, the optimal methodology for growth, for learning anything, is 30% failure. 30% failure, 70% success at what you're doing is what they have found to be the sweet spot where people grow the fastest at anything.
Isn't that amazing? Because you would think intuitively like 100% success would,
Yeah.
but
But
it's totally opposite.
yeah, and those are called one-hit wonders, by the way. That's Milli
Oh,
Vanilli back in the day, right? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? It's
right.
the we they got the worst thing that can happen to a creative is have success right out the gate. Worst, worst, worst thing. You
That's
know,
amazing.
you've got to be getting some crap out. You got to get through the heartache. Now, I want to be careful with this analogy because it can be triggering for people who have had some horrible things happen in their life. So I'm just putting that out there. But the giving birth analogy works better than anything because you do not know, even today, with all of our science, we do not know how well that child is going to turn out until you are holding them in your arms. You can get tests, you can find out, but still, until you have delivered that child or that vision, you don't know if they've got everything working or not.
Yeah,
And again, I want to be careful because a lot of people have had difficult childbirths and things like that.
for sure.
But I have never experienced anyone, and this is not a political statement in any way. I have never experienced anyone that gave birth and just regretted it. And I'm just, again, please not go. I don't have a political bone in my body. Not interested, not
Of
going there.
course.
But the goal here is birthing it, is getting it out, getting it made, bringing it to this world.
Yeah.
And you won't know what that thing is in its entirety until you have birthed it.
Mm.
And, I've got 3 kids. I can tell
Yeah.
you that for 9 months, you sit around wondering how those dudes and dudettes are cooking in there. Like, you go for updates and they're like, well, they got 10 fingers and 10 toes. And I remember everyone's like, and giddy. And I'm like, that's the mark of, that's the measurement is fingers and toes, so I just want people to understand that you literally get impregnated with a vision.
Yeah.
And if you try to give birth too soon, that's a problem. You give birth too late, that's a problem. And guess
Mm.
what? Except for rare problems, it's nature's natural course that brings that child at the right time.
Right.
So your vision will come to the world at the right time that it's supposed to if you will trust. And most of us have just been so burned by trust because trust to us and to me as an American means ignore the facts. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
talking about politics, trust just means ignore everything you know,
Right.
right? And that's not what I mean by trust. Trusting in yourself, trusting in your value and the fact that this is your baby. It's not someone else's baby. And we know it because it's growing inside of you.
Yeah.
You know, um, Let me read this part. This ties in perfect. We speak often about ideas as brain children. What we do not realize, sorry, I got the wrong glasses. What we do not realize is that brain children, like all babies, should not be dragged from creative womb prematurely. It, Literally, that's the whole point that she's making is that gestation period. It's there. Not only do you need to not mess with it, but you can just trust that it knows when to deliver it, right? John's got
I'm
pizza.
sorry. I'm reading comments.
Me too. I just looked down and saw pizza, and I was like, "Did you bring enough for the whole class, John?" Yeah. Um, you've got the gardening image. We must learn to not pull our ideas up by the roots to see if they're growing.
Oh, see, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a gardener, especially like of carrots and potatoes, I want to know what's going on. Like it's
That's
driving
right.
me crazy.
That's right. And that's what's so cool about having kids do gardening at a young age is they
Mm.
subconsciously learn this process. And
Yeah.
if you grew up not gardening, your hands are never in the dirt, anything like that, you miss that inherent learning that you learned when you were close to the earth, that everything, the pregnant cow has a time period, the potatoes have a time period, the wheat has a time period. Now we just throw shit in our microwave and pull it out and burn our mouths and go, hey, we made
Speaking of
something.
pizza. But
Right.
yeah, 100%. Well, and there's signs. Like maybe this is interesting. So you mentioned trust is like ignoring the
What you
facts.
know. Yeah.
Or yeah, what you know. And I feel like it's almost like as opposed to like ignoring, it's almost just trust good signs. Like for instance, like you know you're growing potatoes when you're seeing that plant come out and it's flowering and it's really happy, and then there's certain signs that you can look for and you already can instinctually know what's
Yes.
happening in that earth.
That's right. That's right.
I like that.
It's not hard to tell when a lady's pregnant at 8 months,
No.
but you have no idea in month 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4,
Right.
right? I mean, we're talking about such a natural process that we have basically ignored it in our lives because we're around it so much. Now, I want to address something that several people have. Nothing wrong with Papa John's, baby. I want to. I've seen a couple of comments, and they're going so fast, I'm catching pieces. But somebody made the comment, deadlines is the death of creativity.
Oh.
I'm somebody, you're in a job where you're having to schedule and all that. So I want to point out, and again, as always, perfect timing because we're about to move into something. Julia talks about art with a capital A and art with a lowercase a. And what she's saying to us, she basically says that capital A is dangerous and bad, and you need to stay away from capital A art. And you want to
Mm.
live in the space of lowercase a art. And what she means by that is get back to playing.
Yes.
A child on the playground, the one thing that kills their fun. They're having fun, they're ripping, they're sweating, they're all over, they're meeting new friends, they're dirty, they're playing, space aliens, and then the parent looks up from their phone and goes, 5 more minutes, and you watch the energy of the kid just.
Yeah, you let the air out of the
Yes.
balloon.
So
Yeah.
a really practical thing, because that's all well and good, but you deadlines are dumb. But you have to have deadlines. So here's something that has helped me immensely. I have to create for myself in some way that's not making me money, that's not making me accepted. So I have my own projects that no one outside of my house ever sees, right? My
Mm,
kids all know me as like the nutty professor in the garage building something, but most people don't ever see any of that. That's
yeah.
that's just me, lowercase a art playing.
And I've always found that in those moments of play or just honestly, it's the levity of it all,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yep.
That's where my big ahas come from. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, just lightning strikes,
Yeah.
wham, and then I'll spend a year gestating that, right?
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Wild.
Well, one of the things that I've always, and you can't always do it, but if you make a living from your creativity, we act like there's just one lump called creativity, and it's
Mm,
like it's an asset that we need to measure and be careful.
right.
The better way of looking at it for me has always been the creativity in the play has full range until someone pays me to execute on that creativity. Once they are paying me to execute on that creativity, then my creativity becomes less.
Yeah.
And it's more about executing. So now I'm back, and maybe some people weren't here last week when I was talking about the two piston thing that I do, right? I've got commercial work that I have to be doing, but I have my own playtime that reinvigorates me. So this is deadline, this is play, and you just get this nice balance going.
And I think whenever I personally fall into a creative funk, like deep depression,
Yeah,
and like people know me as like this kind of happy, fun, like lucky guy. Don't let me fool you. Like say it all the time. Like I get in the dumps sometimes, and that's usually when my one piston's only going. In that second, the play piston's not going.
yeah, yeah,
Because though I am extremely creative and all my entire world is based around my art, my own vision, but these are things that go through, the design goes through committees, and then they go through, several design like critique periods. And then
revisions.
I finally, maybe a year later, then I finally get to build it. And it takes
Yeah,
me like months to build the thing.
yeah,
I have I have like I'm so far past the original inspiration for that piece. Like I'm
that's
just
right.
working,
That's right.
just trying to pay my bills. But there's times where I'll be too tired from that to still play. I'm
Yeah,
no longer the levity's not there.
that's right.
So that's when I'm like, nope. I need to go back to Minecraft. I need to
Yeah,
build something or
I got to go build a little boat or something.
yeah, yeah,
And that's why things like artist dates, and last week we talked about the whimsy and the whimsical.
yes.
I don't wait anymore. I used to, and I did it forever, but I don't wait anymore to have my own play. It's now part of everything I'm doing. So if I'm on a 3, 4 month film shoot, scheduled in my process is walks, and I'm going to find the closest comic book store, and I have to keep that feeding, because if I wait until I'm burned out, the work
It's
that I've been paid for sucks, right?
yeah.
And so there's this interesting, that's awesome. There's this interesting balance. And somebody said, I'm so tired of hearing it. It's only art if you can make money from it.
Yeah, Kindle.
I want to be careful because I don't know who they're talking about, but that's beyond idiotic. That's me being careful. It's like that goes back to what I said in the beginning of today's, session is if you're not just creating, but you have to be in the same kind of creation that I am for me to even listen to anything you have to say,
Yeah.
you know? And if anyone is telling you, my son's 8 years old, I need someone to tell him you only get to go to the park and play if you're making money at
It's the
it.
most capitalistic thing I've ever heard.
It really is. I mean, it's just gross.
Ah,
Um, so, I,
if I may,
yeah, please.
there's a statement here that really lines up with what we were talking about previously. Is get serious about taking yourself lightly.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, yeah, good call, dude. Because I had that circled somewhere, and I don't think I read it.
Yeah, I just
That is,
it's so in line with what we were talking about.
yeah, yeah, yes. A lot of people just panic when they feel off or they have a few bad days. And guys, if you haven't been around a pregnant woman, I encourage you to have the experience. Like they have really good days where they're glowing and they're happy and they're nesting and they're thinking about children. And then the next day, they will take your head from your body. Like there are bad days and there are good days. Why? Because they're growing a living being inside of them. Like this is volatile shit. Like you're
Yeah.
you're literally creating something. So you've got to be kind. You've got to honor yourself and you sit down. That's why I've never been a big believer in these people are like, I'm going to draw every day for an hour, no matter what, and it's going to be awesome. And a week into it, they quit. And then they get the shame because they didn't honor their hardcore commitment. Guys, we're not going to a gym. We're not trying to get a six pack. We're going to a playground to play like superheroes.
Yeah.
And the minute you're away from that, and you can be like that, just like Alan Watts said, you can find a way to play your way through the deadlines. You can. But if you take it too serious, you're going to burn yourself out every single time. Um, all too often, when we say we want to be creative, we mean that we want to be productive. Now, to be creative is to be productive, but by cooperating with the creative process, not forcing it. As creative channels, we need to trust the darkness. You know, this this productivity thing comes up a lot. Like
Yeah.
I would say it comes up more than any other point, more than shame, embarrassment, fear. There's this thing, and we all know it's part of how we're all raised. You are as good as you are being productive. And
Right.
what you put out is the measurement of your value.
It's the proof,
That's
right?
right. And I just want to remind everyone, even if this is your business, like Max, like it's yours, you are not working a 9 to 5. You're not sitting in a cubicle. You are not being measured by your output. You're only responsible for your output. Those
Mm,
are really different things.
true.
Lowercase a, no one cares. Make whatever you want. It can look like crap. Higher case A, which means to me you're being paid for someone and you pitched them something specific, then you deliver on that to the T and or you look for new moments of magic in that and you deliver that as well. But this productivity idea, the only time productivity should ever factor in is if you've been paid money for it
Right.
or if you are literally just sitting down and going, today I'm going to draw and I don't care what it turns out like. That will keep you flowing. We are always our own worst critics, 100%.
Definitely.
Um, the truth is, sorry, the truth is that this is how to raise the best ideas. Let them grow in dark and mystery. Let them form on the roof of our consciousness. Let them hit the page in droplets. Trusting the slow and seemingly random drip, we will be startled one day by the flash of, oh, that's it. You just allow it to flow. And if it's a day when it doesn't flow, then it didn't flow that day,
Hmm.
and you move on to the next day.
It's
Uh,
yeah, it's really hard to not judge yourself, but that's such a healthy mantra
yeah,
to harness.
that's right. And again, she talks about hobby here. And I love this because a lot of times people get lost in the art, hobby, commerce kind of trifecta. Like, what is this? Is some people feel better referring to it as awesome. Some people feel better referring to what they're doing as a hobby because no one's going to judge them.
Right. If they downplay it, right.
Right, right. And what she says, and I love this, she talks about hobbies being a powerful way to keep yourself energized and in that state. And that's pretty much what I'm saying. This piston over here I was talking about, that's my hobby piston. It's for me. I can make
Yeah,
a dollhouse and then blow it up tomorrow. That's for me, right?
for
And then
sure.
there's the commerce aspect. And she says this, I just blew me away. It is a paradox of creative recovery that we must get serious about taking ourselves lightly. We we must work at learning to play. Creativity must be freed from narrow parameters of capital A art and recognized as having much more broader play. It- we have to let go of this idea. Yeah, blowing up dollhouses is awesome. If you haven't
That
done
sounds
it, right?
amazing. Little
Yeah,
thermite.
yeah, yeah, dude. It's fun. You blow it up and you film it like a little miniature. Oh, it's greatness.
Then you could do it in slow mo and just watch everything just kind of put some opera to it.
Dude.
That'd be epic.
Yeah, dude. Come on, man. Um, Let me see here. There's something I wanted to skip to.
Not yeah. Tannerite. That's what I was thinking of. Thanks, John.
You're either losing your mind or gaining your soul. Life is meant to be an artist date. Life is meant to be an artist date. That's why we were created.
You're either losing your mind or gaining your soul. I need to get that tattooed across my
Right,
chest. That's
exactly.
amazing.
Exactly. I mean, I love that these things come in so heavy at the end of this book, because she writes at the end of the book that she thought about, putting this big parting words at it, and she decided not to. Her point is this journey isn't over. You just finished the book for the first time, but you're going to wind up going through this book at different times throughout your life, which I can tell you absolutely is true.
I
And
bet you'll get a different experience every time.
every time, every time, I'm convicted about something different every time in myself. Like hits me like it's always something different. And I've been around it so long that I can remember when I'm reading something that used to bother me that I grew through. You know,
Cool.
um, at the end of this book, she has a couple of things. Like she always has so many options. There's a creativity contract. There's a excuse me. We got serious allergies here too. Um, she's got a prayer, a creator prayer. But what I wanted to draw everyone's attention to in the appendix, she calls it trail mix. And she's talking about forming a sacred circle. And it's several pages, so we won't go into it in detail now. I want to honor time and do a few more things real quick. Excuse me. Um, but the hardest part of forming a sacred circle, which basically is a safe place full of artists that are on their
Yeah.
journey, is finding the people. And the beauty is, we found the people. I mean, there's 16 people. This class has been anywhere between 10 to 20 people every week,
Yeah.
counting you and I. Um, we have this sacred shared space. Now, I know that you're planning and you're going to continue the Discord creative development part of this. So I would encourage you guys, if you want to really look at this, absolutely, is to look at some of these rules for a sacred space and decide if you guys want to live by those as a group or not. You know,
Mm.
they're pretty much what you already would be doing. Like, hey, don't be rude. Give people space to express. But I just want to say, wrapping all this up, if you have not been on the Discord conversation, sorry guys, you've
You're
got to get on
fine.
the Discord conversation.
It's been amazing. So I've said this a million times. I'm gonna say it a million more. But like I when I started with the social media and I started, all of this, pretty much presenting my work to people, I was really nervous about it. I was very insecure about being in front of the camera. And but as this beautiful creative community has kind of just coalesced and gathered from people around the world, it's amazing. And the fact that we can experience all this stuff of learning and sharing together on Discord and all on YouTube, wherever,
Yeah.
it's just the best feeling. And like, I don't know, it's been very special and it's only growing.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of a better word than sacred. You know, to,
Sacred.
to be an adult and to be able to find other adults where you can talk about your fears of creating, that's a really special thing. The vast majority of the world has never had that. And I do need water. I just drank some. Thank you, Grace. And it's it's something that needs to be honored and it's something that needs to be maintained. And what you'll see is in the Discord space, everybody will self-maintain it. There's so much positivity. And Max, I know you hate it, but any community takes on the shape of the founder of the community. That's just the way it is. You don't have to like it, but that's just the way it is. And it's your kindness, it's your gentleness, it's your willing to be transparent that has created this environment that's attracting those people. And
Wow.
these people here, these 14 that are on right now, or those that are watching later, they'll faithfully follow you until you do something just absolutely horrific.
Oh
And
well, I'm not planning on that.
yeah, let's not work on that. But, it's not, notice, Max, you didn't, this community is now here because of your transparency, not because of your art.
Oh,
And just think
wow.
about that, right? You really have defined yourself as an artist. I know you get a lot of value from it, but in closing, before I show you some cool toys, I
Oh
want
yeah, toys.
to, yeah, I want to make sure that everybody understands it's not our art that gives us value. It's who we are. And that creative community, when you start bringing people together, it is absolutely beautiful and it will save some people's lives. I know people deeply depressed, suicidal on their second, third suicide attempt. I'm not exaggerating. That just having a group that doesn't dogpile on them the minute they ask a question save their freaking life.
It's true.
It is.
And what's amazing that I discovered is like how little it takes to really just save somebody. I mean, it just a tiny bit of kindness, just
Yes,
not judging someone, just letting someone share the same space with you,
that's right.
and
Yeah,
that's the easiest thing ever.
yeah,
And just eh, the fact that that's rare is really sad.
yeah. It
but
is.
I'm glad
But
that
But look, we're attracting people and we're making it less rare, right?
yes,
And that's the beauty of it. The darker it gets, the brighter the light shines. I tell my kids constantly.
I like that.
We are in a time of chaos, I believe, as a society, and it's a chance for us to shine and love people without an agenda. There's no conversion point. There's no tally. We didn't charge for these classes. We're not selling things on these classes. It's just for the sake, just like we create art just for the sake, right?
I love that.
So let me show you some toys. Did you bring anything?
Yeah. So okay. So all right.
I'm
Let,
excited.
let, let me begin. So I don't know if you know this, but I have not that I'm really into physics. Like I love physics, but I'm not. I would never consider myself as like extraordinarily adept at explaining things. But You gotta know. Okay, I fussed around with things enough as a little kid that I kind of got a basis of physics. But I ordered a gyroscope. I actually
Awesome.
ordered like a whole bunch of gyroscopes,
Oh,
and they're just the coolest things, right?
oh,
And they're
that was
just they're like
beautiful too.
little cheapies, but like look at this. I mean, come on.
Yeah, dude,
It's the coolest thing. And I
that's
remember being a
magical.
little kid with my gyroscope, and where like a lot of other kids would just kind of like, I don't know, be like, okay, it's cool, it's a top, but it's
Yeah,
not a top. Like, because it's so hard to change this direction. Like, I don't know. Because as you guys saw, like when I was working on like the tree base, like there's just something absolutely amazing about
yes,
centrifugal energy and flywheels, right?
absolutely.
Because that's the
Yeah,
same principle. And it's so hard to move. How
yeah.
cool would it be to like have a wizard staff with
Oh,
a bunch of like opposite opposing flywheels? So you
that
just
brings balance.
and then you would just let it go and it would just be sitting there.
Oh my
Wouldn't
god.
that be
All
amazing?
right, we're gonna have to talk about that, dude. See,
Oh,
I'm telling you,
it just
man, that you've always loved. You're always talking about it. You're always talking about it. I think something about physics makes us feel like we're figuring out how the world works.
yeah,
You know what
like
I'm
for the first
saying?
time, it just feels so new.
I love it. That's awesome. That's
Well, and
awesome.
also I think I was inspired by Ninja Turtles. I think it was Ninja Turtles 2 or 3 with like the time scepter.
Oh, nice. Was that the one with Vanilla Ice?
I don't remember, but it's just the coolest thing. I'm just oh
So, if anybody, I know I threw this in the Discord, but I also know everyone's like working and stuff during the day. Last week we were talking about sitting down with intention and thinking about toys and things that you had when you were a kid. And then going and finding those, like on eBay or buying new versions like you did. So if you guys have anything like that, I know you can't show it here, but you can put it in Discord or you can just text here and let us know. But I call this a hack. I mean, this is a life hack for me. I can be in all kinds of internal turmoil and sit down at my desk and I'll see a few of these things and they ground me in that sense of play and that sense of wonder. Strawberry shortcake. All right, let's start with that one.
nice.
Check it out.
Oh,
I have had this. This was my sister's. Very few people even know what the hell this is. So, this was the villain of Strawberry Shortcake. And I
it
always
looks
wanted to play
awesome.
with my sister, but I was a G.I. Joe guy. So, we would have G.I. Joe and Strawberry Shortcake. No contest, right?
Yeah, I mean, come
So,
on.
yeah. So then what my sister did is she gave me this guy. And so I got to be this guy. And I've had it since I was probably 6 years old, right?
That's
So
amazing.
that sits on my deck next to this feller that we all know from Star
Oh yeah,
Wars.
bounty hunter.
But this is my original one. And because of the way I was raised and all that stuff, I wasn't allowed to have any GI Joe. I mean, any Star Wars that was like occultic. So a friend gave this to me, and my parents didn't know it was from Star Wars, so I got to keep it. And
Contraband.
yes, so this one sits there staring at me. A old school viewfinder that still works, and
Amazing.
I got Spider Man in there. You can't see it. But this one sits there with me, and I pick it up. I've had this for, I guess, 35 years. Um, Two more things I got to show you. The Missile Command from Atari.
Oh my
So
god.
I remember going next door and watching my friends play this, and I would, when you're a little kid, one of the things I love is little kids when they are really fascinated with something. It's the way they hold it.
Yeah, it's sacred.
It's sacred. It's fragile. It can be a steel bar, but they're
Yeah.
holding it like this, right? And I can remember because we didn't have an Atari, but I remember holding this cartridge, thinking that this was like sorcery, like magic. And
Right.
so this isn't from that time period. I went on eBay and just bought it, and that sits on my desk.
Amazing.
And then my last one and my most favorite, when I was 5 or 6, I was playing in the front yard, and a playing card, like a trading card, blue flew down the street, and it was laying there in our grass from Close Encounters. And
What?
I picked it up, and this was what was on the cover.
Oh,
And I was 6. And I remember vividly going and talking to my mom, and my mom telling me about some people believe in something called aliens. I mean, you got to remember, this is like 1981, right?
wow.
So my mom's talking to me about it, like, it sounds pretty hokey, but yeah, supposedly there's aliens, and this melting my brain. And night after night, I would take this card. I only had this one, and I would go sit in the backyard and look at stars and just freak out over the idea of aliens.
That's
So
amazing.
I went online, bought the whole collection.
No.
I keep that one right there. It literally came in a case that just sits on my desk. And
Perfect.
when I was creating Camp Wonderment, I would take this card and I would go sit in the backyard with it, and it would put me in such a place of wonder and childlike excitement. It's like a needle or something. It just instantly puts me in that place.
It's so smart. It's brilliant.
Yeah. So I really beg people all the time, not to mention it's just fun, but get
I'm,
on eBay, get on Etsy, and look for old toys from your childhood, or sometimes it was something that your friend had that you didn't have, would made it a little more magical, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I appreciate you letting me share on mine. I'm a big nerd about this kind of stuff.
Are
I
you
love it.
kidding? This is amazing. Well, because we'll all have different things, right? No,
Yeah,
no two people's nostalgia are exactly the same.
that's right. Yeah,
I'm
and
just excited to rediscover gyroscopes. I have like a whole bunch more, but I was thinking like it'd be really fun to weld a couple of them together. So when you and then they're
sure.
all together, and I don't know. I feel like there's things to be done with these.
Well, that wizard staff idea where the wood could come up in different places and there's just several of them on there would be.
Just
Is
I
it
come.
possible? Is it possible to do it to where it's balanced and it would stand on its own?
That's the idea. If I had a heavy enough flywheel that it would just, you would get it ripping, and you would set the staff down, and you could walk away from it. And the flywheel, the weight of the flywheel would keep it from falling over.
Dude, that's crazy cool idea.
So I have a lot of experiments to do.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. So before we go, let's look at this because there's been a lot of good comments here. Oh, the Hogwarts letter. Yeah, that hurts. Ooh, the Nazgul horse and rider figure. Heck yeah.
So cool.
I had the original 45 of The Hobbit that came with the storybook, and I bought that as well. I didn't bring it in here, but that's in my office. It just sits there with I mean, I was listening to that and flipping through those pages at 4, 5, 6 years old, you know.
That's cool.
Um, so anyway, I'll be on Discord. I'm never gonna leave the Discord, but this is our last class.
Oh,
And time to say goodbye.
I
Just for a little
hate
bit.
it. Like I'm terrible at goodbyes.
Yeah. Well,
But and
what
we're gonna do, and like the whole like creative workshop thing. We'll continue. Like we'll have maybe different things going on. I don't know.
yeah.
Like we're just putting stuff out there. But Damien, seriously, this has been amazing. This is gonna help me in my career so much because it's giving words to feelings that I kind of knew, and then I
Yeah.
forget about them, and then relearn them again. I was constantly having to relearn.
Yeah.
Um, so this has been deeply beneficial, and I can't wait to actually watch these live streams later down the road.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. Now I have to ask, I think Kindle or someone has posted this term multiple times, and I don't know what it means, and it's gonna drive me crazy.
What is it?
Anything less than heard. Now I gotta find it. Anything less than heard and welcome. So what does that mean, Kindle? Because it's been posted so many times, it's gonna drive me crazy just to sign off and never find out what that means. Let's see if we get an answer. Big money, big
Yeah,
money.
we'll give them a second.
Yeah. Because I feel like you're quoting something profound, and I'm like, okay, and I'm just scrolling past.
And also the chat, like you guys have been showing up, every week. Oh, it's the second half of the message. Oh, it's the second half. No one in
Even more
particular.
mysterious.
Yeah, that's even more mysterious. Oh, it was the end of a comment that got split. That's great.
I was like, what is this? That's like Yoda shit, man. I'm
Yeah,
like, what are
yeah,
you trying to tell
exactly.
me, dude? Like, I must understand. All right, sorry. I get it.
No, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, too good.
Yeah,
Well, this couldn't have been half as fun without all of you here
no doubt.
every week, hanging out with us, being a part of the chat, and for all those in the future, hello, we see you. But
Yep,
we'll
yep,
tune in for the next one day.
that's right.
But
Well,
buddy,
buddy,
this has been amazing.
yeah,
Philosophy,
yeah,
great.
philosophy. I love that. Well, I love you, man. I love everyone that's been on here. It's just been great, and I really appreciate you guys. Giving me a chance to share this with you. It heals me and encourages me, just like you guys. So thank you.
We love you, buddy. All
All
right,
right, man.
man.
Anything less than heard and welcome. I'm just gonna say that as a sign
Just
off every time for the rest of my
and let
life.
it be mysterious. Just say it without anything.
Yeah, and throw a smoke bomb down and just
Yeah, throw
disappear.
it through, then you vanish.
You see me
Yes,
running out the back
Damian.
of the room. All
Oh,
right, dude.
well, have a terrific day, everyone. We love you. Take care.
All right.
Bye bye.